Welcome back, everybody. This week's car review is this 2015 Mini Cooper F55, the third generation of the BMW Mini. Can you believe we've now had BMW Minis for over 20 years? This week we're going to take a look at this car, take it for a drive, and I'll give you my views on this 5-door Mini Cooper F55. Welcome to Fast and Fun. The third generation of BMW Mini. We had originally had the R53, then we moved to the R56, and then the third generation came in 2013, which was the F56. In fact, there was three variants of that. The F56 was the 3-door. You then had this, which was the longer, wider 5-door. In regard to the F55, and then you had the quirky convertible, which was the F57. But this is the F55. The addition of these rear doors. So this is the first proper mini hatch that came in 5 doors. You did have some of the quirky clubmen or the SUV lookalike countrymen that had rear doors, but the first mini hatch with 5 doors was this, the F55. 6-inch longer. It's got a slightly longer wheelbase as well. And although I've driven the Cooper S and the Paceman Cooper DS, this is the first Cooper, so non-turbocharged or non-supercharged. In this car is a 1.5 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engine producing 136 brake horsepower. Interesting to see what a 3-cylinder goes like. Say this been a little bit heavier as well because of the extra size of the 5-door. So intrigued to know what it looks like. But Minis, you've got to say, even the ones that were anti-BMW taking on the Mini, as I say, over 20 years ago, what BMW have done is absolutely remarkable. These are now absolutely accepted. In fact, the R53s, the first gen now, are definitely in the category of modern classic now. So they are definitely accepted. BMW have done brilliantly. Just the way you could configure the cars with the different coloured roofs, the different coloured wing mirrors, the massive array of different options you could do to configure it to make your Mini just feel more unique. Let's take a look at some of the features then of this 5-door F55. So this specific one, like I've said, it's 2015. It's done just over 30,000 miles. So it's a pretty low mileage Mini Cooper. Not until you get up close do you really get an idea of what these rear doors have done. It is a long car. In fact, they say it is only 6 inches longer than the 3-door hatch. Visually, it looks longer than that. It's set off in this blue with black roof. I don't know, some people loathe the BMW Minis. I've got to accept them as what they have done. They've brought, certainly in the Cooper S variant, massive enjoyability, hot hatch fun to rival some of the best in the marketplace. So you really can't knock what BMW have done with the Mini generation. The Coopers always sat in that middle ground. So you had the Mini 1s, which were the entry-level cars. You had the Cooper S's, which was the feisty hot hatches. The Cooper sits in this middle ground. Who buys a Mini Cooper? Well, for me, you get some of the tasty-looking options. You just don't get that higher powered output. This is significantly below. The Cooper S's are over 190 horsepower. So they're a good sort of 55 horsepower down on the Cooper S's. So significantly less power on these standard Coopers, but it comes at a cost saving. I did a look on Auto Trader yesterday. These F55 Coopers now, somewhere in the region, started around 7-8k at going up, whereas the Cooper S versions are probably going for 2,000 to 3,000 more. So you are paying a healthier premium for the Cooper S's rather than these. One of the important parts of anyone that's looking at an F55, I can't open the car, I was panicking then. How do I unlock the car? There we go. Is the rear passenger seat. So I'm a 6-foot guy. That's my driving position. That's the rear passenger legroom. I think that's pretty good for a Mini. It's actually remarkable. Doors, entry in, the aperture is, it looks, and it is actually very tight for me to get in there. But headroom is good. I've sat in there. There's no issues with headroom. Legroom is adequate. And certainly if you had sort of 2 smallish children, I'd have no issues with that at all. And certainly a massive improvement over the 3-door hatch. Inside, it's exactly what you expect of Minis of old. They've kept and will continue to keep that centre large dial with the rev counter and the speedo directly, the smaller rev counter and speedo directly in front of the driver. And it's pretty much as you expect from BMW Mini over the last 20 years. Gear knob's slightly worn, I think, for such a low mileage car. Probably expected something a little bit better than that. And again, even on the steering wheel itself, for a low mileage car, it just looks like it's not worn particularly well. But the seats look clean, they look fresh. And they do look almost like factory new, to tell you the truth. So the seats have worn very well. Just the touch points with the hands have just let it down slightly. If you go around the front of the car, this low black splitter at the front, bumper at the front, with the smiley face of the Cooper, the low fog lights. One thing I've never been a great fan of with Mini is these. And these are the sort of the black rubber plastic arch surround, and they go down the sills as well. One of the main gripes with those is that they wear badly. If you don't put sort of, after you've washed the car, back to black in there, then that just turns into a sort of an off black grey colour, and it just makes it look quite odd looking, really. So you've just got to just be wary of that. This, I'm not sure what this is here on the front of the car, but it's sort of a discoloured. I've never seen it before on another Mini. I don't know if this was an optional. It's sort of a plastic, but I don't know if it should be black or grey. It's got white in there. It's sort of a multitude of different colours, and it looks a bit unusual, shall we say. But the chrome touches are nice. Chrome touches around the grille, chrome touches around the headlights. It all looks pretty smart, pretty tidy. Wheels, obviously, step down from something that you'd expect of a Cooper S, but that could help with ride comfort, the quality of ride, and you get the feeling that someone that's going to buy the F55 over the F56, so the 5-door over the 3-door, is somebody that wants that practicality. And if they've got, for example, passengers or smaller children to fetch around, ride quality is going to be that much more important. So that's on the chrome touches around the back as well, of the rear lights. Again, the nice subtle touches, and you can see the roofline of this Mini. It doesn't taper down at all. It's pretty flat all the way across to the back of the car, and I think in this colour sets it off nicely. This light blue, sky coloured blue with the black roof and the black tinted wing mirror covers. I think the only thing for me visually, just the wheels, just the alloys, just look a little bit too small for my sort of liking. These are actually Hancocks. I'm just looking at the size of the tyres, the 175, 65 and the 15-inch alloys. Boot space is good. Again, step up from there's my camera gear in the boot there, but that's a good boot space. So you've got a good degree of practicality here in the back of this F55, and that's really where it scores massively over the three-door F56. As always though, for me, looks are important, but how it drives is more important. So let's take this out on some of my favourite B roads and see what this Mini Cooper is like to drive. So what's my first views? It's pretty much as you were. In fact, the dash, the layout, it's all BMW Mini. And, well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It perhaps showed that when BMW first launched the R53, I say over 20 years ago, they must have got it right, because put me in an R53, put me in an R56, or put me in an F56, or in this case F55, the three generations of BMW Mini, and they all feel and look the same. I suppose that shows you probably how BMW got it right on the first generation, but sometimes if you're in the later generation, you just expect it to be a little bit better. And to tell you the truth, for a non-owner of a BMW, I wouldn't know which version I'm in. And that, I suppose, if I'm in the latest generation, would be a bit of a disappointment. It is actually rides really, really well. These are quite badly potholed, bumpy, snarly little B road, and it's already soaking in the compressions, riding with a comfort that I wasn't expecting, and probably one that a Cooper S couldn't match either. Yes, the alloys are only 15 inch, they've got quite thick sidewalls as well, that will certainly be helping, but not having such a stiff suspension will also help with the ride quality. So it rides the road really, really well. And perhaps the additional longer wheelbase also helps. So we're just going to come out of this 30 zone here. I'm in second gear, so just make sure I'm only going at 20 now. So 20 miles an hour, second gear, accelerate, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then into third gear. So there's an urgency there, it's very long geared. Power delivery's there, and I think it's quick enough. I think it's quick enough for everyday driving, but it's just not going to set the world alight. But someone that's going to buy a Cooper isn't going to want to, otherwise they'd have gone for the Cooper S. But it's certainly adequate enough. Vocal, noise, a little bit of a letdown. It's a 3-cylinder after all, so you're not going to get any sort of really resonant noise there. But otherwise it pulls strongly enough, yeah, if the noise is a little bit disappointing. One thing I'm not so keen about is the gearbox. It's really notchy, there's no smooth action. Between first and second is horrid to get into, second to third's not much better, drop it there, fifth to fourth's not too bad, but it's, as soon as you try to rush the gear change, it just doesn't want to be rushed. Flip it into third there. Yeah, that third to fourth, horrid. Really don't like that gear change at all. Brakes though are good, brakes are strong, progressive, but the ride quality is great. Rides so much better than I can remember the Cooper S that I drove, that was quite harsh, quite bounced around a lot. This just feels so much more compliant, so much easier to use on a daily basis. Just come down to this left-hander here, into second, just feel the car. Yeah, turning's pretty good, and it kicks up well. Turning, steering's good, it's not overly servoed. It loses a little bit of computers when you really start pushing on. But the way it absorbs bumps, potholes, cambers, impressive. And I think, yeah, it goes really well. Statistics wise, it's apparently only half a second slower than the Cooper S to 60, which is pretty impressive considering it's some 50-60 horsepower down on the Cooper S, but yeah, that's the way it went up that road there, pretty impressive. But the best thing about it at the moment is a really, really great ride quality. And the steering's good, the steering's nice, offering feedback. It's not too light like a lot of modern cars, it's not too artificial. Just doesn't quite feel as light and agile and as throwable and as chuckable like the 3-door. But there's a really good trade-off for that, because you get really usable and practical rear seats, the luggage compartment, and I think the longer wheelbase probably helps with the ride quality as well. It's still a fun car, the Cooper. The seats are a little bit, I don't know, for a Cooper, I just expect it to be a bit, I don't know, probably better seats really. They just look a bit average. I expect something a bit special. I know it's not the top of the range Cooper S, but it's still a Cooper, and a Cooper should mean sport in regard to Mini. And I just think those seats just look like they've been taken out of a base model. The only other thing that I've noticed actually is on these B pillars, I don't know if you can see the B pillar, they are really, really thick and chunky. And because they're so thick, it means that when you're pulling out of junctions at a certain angle, sort of 90 degrees, and you're trying to look slightly behind you, you've got a massive blind spot. So how do I summarise my time with this F55 Mini Cooper? Well, I think a couple of the negatives first. I think one is, I always want people to know I've got the latest generation. And if you're buying this 3rd gen, well, I'm not sure that people would. The external looks similar to the previous generation. In fact, the previous 2 generations, all the BMW Minis do. And in particular inside, it's just, well, to tell you the truth, I can't recall much difference between this and the previous R56. And I don't know, if I'm buying the latest, I kind of want it to look just a little bit different. The other negative, and it's a big negative, is the gearbox. It's a big letdown. It's poor. It gets to a position that you actually don't want to change gear, and it certainly can't be rushed. The 2nd to 3rd, 3rd to 4th are all really, really poor. And that really lets down the whole car, because otherwise, BMW have created a really, really competent car. The engine, it's only 3-cylinder, but it's certainly quick enough. It rides, it's absolutely brilliant. It's got the damping, it's got the turning, it's got the steering feel, the brakes are good, and it feels quality. And you know, a Mini from BMW backing, it's going to be reliable. So all those things really make it a really viable proposition. And this quirky looking 5-door F55, I like it. I like the looks of it. I like the practicality of the rear seats. And the longer wheelbase and the longer car, it does become a proper usable, practical, everyday proposition. So there's a lot going for the Mini Cooper F55. The biggest letdown is that bloody gearbox. Would it be enough to put me off? Possibly. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, thumbs up, subscribe, stay tuned. Another video next week. Thanks for watching.